So in the United States, the idea of ego often has a positive connotation. We're supposed to have ego strength. In traditional Sufi practice, on the other hand, ego is, I believe, nafs. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing. And it's a negative because it holds you away from God. So I'm wondering, first of all, how you might attempt to reconcile these two ideas, because they're different. And second, what are the practical steps we can take to reduce our egos so that we grow closer to God?
Well, this is a very interesting question regarding ego or nafs, or whether, they both complement each other or not. English is a very interesting language, but I'm not in a position to say that it is not that profound. But when it comes to the translations, then certainly, some terms are poorly translated, and they do not reflect the full meaning or the magnificence of that. Those of who know the Arabic language, nafs is a very wider term. It is a big canvas, and on that canvas, certainly ego is one part of that. As we know that human being is not only the body, right? It's not only the spirit. When the spirit comes into the human body, only then a person is called as a human being, right? And when that spirit leaves this body, then that is called as a dead body, right? So now we have two things. On one end we have body, and on the other end we have spirit, and these are totally two separate and opposite entities as such. Body is tangible, it can be seen, right? It can be touched, it is gross, right? This is the reality of the body. And about spirit, whatever we know about spirit, that is also very subtle, right? Spirit itself is very subtle, and then whatever knowledge we have about spirit is also very subtle. So how it was possible to bring those two very opposites at some meeting point, which is called as the human being, right? On one end, it is a timeless and a spaceless being. It is very subtle. And on the other hand, it is time-bound and space-bound physical existence, a very gross one. So when these two realities, they come closer, right? It is as if we bring the white color close to the black, right? And where both meet, there will be a gray line, right? So that gray line is as such as, if we want to understand, that is nafs. Or if we want to understand that water has totally different properties than that of the fire, right? So if we bring these two closer to each other where they can meet, certainly we will have that container or the pot in which we contain the water, and then we put the fire, right? Otherwise, water has the properties to put off the fire. So, these are the poor examples, but I just want to make it understand that how what that nafs can be. It can be very helpful to understand and differentiate that what ego is and what actually nafs is. So that gray line or that pot, right, in which we have water, and beneath that we have the fire. the surface that is more closer to the fire is certainly going to have more heat, isn't it? To that of the same, the surface, the inner side of the pot, which is more closer to the water. But this is both the same thing. This is the nafs, right? So nafs is categorized into different categories. The part of the nafs which is more closer to material, since my body is a material also. So the part of that nafs which is more closer to material is called as the commanding self, right? And the surface of the part of that nafs which is more closer towards your spirit is called as the pleased self or the content self, right? So within the self, then there are different stages, right? Now what is self? Again, see, it is a meeting point. It is that operating system, right, where both these opposite realities going to work, right? So since spirit is unseen, totally unseen, and body is seen, right? So how do they relate and how they are interconnected and how they're going to work? Certainly there going to be something which is in the middle, which is receiving the messages or the commands from the spirit, right, and has the ability to execute it through the body. So this nafs is basically that operating system. It works as that operating system. If that container, for example, the poor example which we were giving of water and fire, right? If that container is of very low quality steel, probably, if you want to say, very thin layer of steel, it's going to heat up, right? Just like this. But then it's going to destroy itself too on the heat, right? It has that capacity. So this nafs is that, in the larger term, it is that operating system through which human beings operate. And Quran says that we created you from one nafs. So all of the human beings, they have the same composition. I, you, he, she, they, whoever they are, or whoever we are, we have the same nafs. Means that we have the same categories of the nafs and we have the same operative system as such. But now it varies from a person to person. It varies from person to person, as our bodies, they vary from person to person. And it has different qualities. Some qualities in some people, they suppress it. Some qualities, they are under control of those qualities, right? And these emotions and attitudes, right, and the working of your brain and your working of your mind is dependent on the stage of the nafs, where is, or at what stage your nafs is. For example, the person who is very generous, his or herself is certainly at a different level of self than that of the one who is all full of the greed, right? Ego is different. In this, ego comes in, or what we call in our language, khudi comes in. That ego is that power, basically, that fire within human nafs. Within that nafs, there is one power which is called as the ego. If that power is not channelized properly, it destroys you. And if it is used in the right direction, it strengthens you. So now it depends on you where you are applying that force. So ego in, for example, ego in intellectual aspect, right? You have your ego. You came across a challenge in the study, or there is a puzzle, or something where you are stuck, right? And now you have the ego. Right? Now that ego helps you, right? That ego gives strength to your mental abilities to take on that challenge, right? And to put more effort into it and to solve that problem. And how it is bad? That when it is applied outside of yourself, if it is applied within yourself, right, then it is a strength. But if it is applied outside, right, then it becomes the human weakness. For example, I say something bad to you, just for a moment, and I can be a lunatic, I can be in a bad mood, right? I have a bad mouth, or anything, right? And I say something to you, and your ego comes out. That very strength comes out, right? If you are a stable mind, if you are a person at a high station of the consciousness, you will understand that, okay, this guy is not insane, right? He is not in balance. So whatever he is saying, there is nothing to actually notice in it, just let it go. Or otherwise, that your ego comes in and it destroys you. You would probably say bad words to me, or if I have done something very bad, suddenly you're gonna hit me, or at least, for next 3-4 days, you're gonna feel bad even you are at home. That, oh, that man said something bad, right? And still your ego is in that hurt. So understanding the power of ego is very important, and understanding of nafs is very important. This understanding of nafs actually is understanding of self, or what we call as self-knowledge or self-realization. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that فَقَدْ أَرْفَ نَفْسَهُ فَقَدْ أَرْفَ رَبَّهُ, that who knows his self knows thy Lord, right? So when you come to understand the self and you have the self-knowledge, you are able to understand the God. In today's modern world, and as you were mentioning that how much money we have spent on this classroom, right? The amount of our time and our resources which we are spending on it, right? We human beings are not putting any attention on understanding ourselves, right? What drives us, we do not know. We want to drive everything. We want to drive the other human beings. We want to drive almost everything which is present on this planet, right? But what is driving me to do certain things? I have more and more knowledge about anything, and I have less and less knowledge about myself, right? And in the modern educational settings, this is the dilemma, that there is no such curriculum which focused on understanding of the self, and it should be mandatory to learn this. How in the ancient times there were the teachers, right, who the students will spend years and years with them to understand who they are, and there were marvelous results that after you understand who you are, right, then you you have all those powers to explore everything which is present and to take use and proper use of everything which surrounds us. So most of the human beings are under this commanding self, right? And when you find the way and the techniques to get rid of that what is commanding you, then you go to the next stage of the self. Then you will find the ways to be of more pure, right? And whatever are the hurdles at that stage, you will try to let those go and get to. So the aim of a Sufi and a Dervish is that when the human starts this journey from the beginning, they are at the commanding self, right? And the aim is to reach to the content self as such, right? So this is a long time journey, this is a lifetime journey, it's not a single thing, and it is properly a work, and which you have to learn different techniques to use that and to get more strength from yourself. This is a poor understanding that one should, I mean, when we talk about the spirituality or the spiritual traditions, sometimes people think that these are the people who have killed their nafs or who have killed their self, right? So killing self is actually, there is no such thing as killing self, because if there is killing self, means that is suicide, you are no more there. So self always remains there, self remains, self starts with your journey on this earth from the womb of the mother, and it goes at the end when we are in the grave, right? And this is the vehicle, actually, the self is the vehicle on which you embark on this journey, or on which you travel through this life. So how is it possible that if you kill that vehicle, right, if you kill that horse, and you still assume that you're going to reach till the end? So we have to purify the self. First of all, at first stage, it is self-realization, self-awareness, self-knowledge. And then with that theory, the masters tell you that how you can tame this animal, so in order to ride it properly, right? So you come to understand the psychology of that animal. So if self, for example, is the horse on which I have to travel through, I should know the characteristics of that horse. If it is wild horse, if it is commanding horse, right, if it is not under my control, then I have to let that horse go through trainings, right, so in order that I can ride now the horse and it is under my command. How fast then I go and reach up to the highest levels of the self, it depends on my practice, more and more practice. And that practice, when we are talking of this, some young people might think that that practice is probably by going out somewhere in the jungles and do that practice. No, my dear. Here, even at your home or your college or to your university, wherever you are, yourself is there. That horse is there. So you have to learn according to your own circumstances how you tame it. Well, you quoted that I often say about love, that love is the remedy, and if it is not working, one should increase the dose of the love and it will start working. Yeah, because sometimes at the receiver end, people are not ready for that sort of love, and we are living in that age of doubt where people might start suspecting that why this person is doing some act of kindness towards me. And this is very alarming. That act of evil nobody suspects, right? But when you do some kindness, right, or do some good deed to other, people just start suspecting why he is doing this, probably he has something in his mind, right? Because we are living in this psychology of instant rewards, right? So that makes a person suspect. Because one person has not done anything good selflessly, he has always been engaged in doing the things where his self is there, right? So when a Sufi or a Dervish talks about the love, it is always a selfless love.